presents Wake Up in the Den with Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht. I guess Mike was still sleeping today, so we forgot to check if Michael was going to be gracing us with his presence this morning, as he does most Mondays. But we're going to rock and roll today, post a Super Bowl Monday. Mahalo for tuning in on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network and watching, streaming live right now on our YouTube channel. You guys can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. Or you can also just jump on into the live YouTube chat with any of your Super Bowl thoughts. We'll get into. We won't spend the entire 2 hours, as we are here with you from 8 to 10, Monday through Friday. We won't spend the entire 2 hours talking about the Super Bowl. We'll sprinkle in some UH basketball and UH men's volleyball after they had interesting games over the weekend. I mean, even the game in which they won, being the women's basketball team, it was a game that we are not used to and seeing with the Rainbow Wahine.
Wasn't easy.
Yeah, with the Rainbow Wahine coming back from being like 19 points down in the first quarter. It was interesting. It was quite the game. So we'll get into a bunch of stuff, but of course, got to get into and start off with our Super Bowl conversations. It's always weird, like with the Super Bowl. Obviously, as you heard from our report, and maybe you guys know that the Eagles beat the Chiefs, put a smackdown on the Chiefs 40-22. When I say smackdown, I mean kept the dynasty or what have you, one of the greatest quarterbacks in this generation, and Patrick Mahomes in that offense, and Andy Reid kept them to 0 burgers the entire first half, which I think a lot of people weren't expecting to see, not even myself. But before we get into the game, though, Paul, how was your Super Bowl, and what did you guys do? And then how was just your Super Bowl Sunday? And what was probably the favorite dish that your wife made to celebrate Super Bowl Sunday?
I like that you already know that I was not the one who put together the spread.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a wonderful day. We got to host. I like to think that will likely be our role for a long time in our lives. We both enjoy it quite a bit. Part of it is like, in the morning, she went to gym class, and when she got back, I was already cleaning the apartment, which she was planning to do, and then whatever. Ended up hosting a few people. Shout out to our HPU Sharks. We love some of the coaching staff over there, especially. It was a good time there. Favorite dish? Ooh, good question. Wife makes some really good buffalo chicken wing dip. That's like a classic, a staple for every football Sunday. She made some really good like barbecue shredded chicken like sliders.
Ooh.
I think those are my favorite from yesterday. It was great. I mean, we had mac and cheese. We had, like I mentioned, the chicken wing dip. We had the sliders, fruit plates, veggie plates, cheese, whatever you needed. We had it. So yeah, the hosts with the most, the Brechts. It was a good day. A lot of fun.
I know. We kind of also unsurprised or surprised to us that we ended up hosting like a small party. One of Mike's friends are in town. He was in town for his grandmother's birthday, who turned 105.
Let's go.
Yeah, so 105. So he lives in Colorado, in town to celebrate his grandma's birthday, and then him and then his mom and then his uncle came over to the house to hang out, which it was nice. But yeah, 105. Actually, I'll tell this story. It was kind of a funny story because when you get 105 years old, you might not always remember the plans that you had made originally. So
I don't remember them now. I'm 25.
So I guess they had planned. They told her that, all right, Grandma. They talked to her on Saturday. We're gonna pick you up at 10:30. We're gonna go to Highway Inn for brunch. Yada yada yada. They go to Arcadia, and she's like nowhere to be found. And they're like, all right, well, where's Grandma? And then they realize, they're like, well, I know she usually likes to go to Zippy's with her friends, and there's only like this one particular Zippy's. And then they go to that Zippy's, and there's Grandma with her friends. They have a cake and everything. So
Please, that's so cute.
It's the cutest.
Oh my God.
And I made the joke though. I was like, man, wow, Grandma's just like ditching you guys. Didn't she know she should put it in her calendar that her birthday celebration?
Was she forgetting, or she was choosing the one that was more exciting to go to, you know? That's awesome. That's so fun, though.
That's why I was like, I got to tell this story. It was hilarious when they told us. They were like all excited. Like he came into town from Colorado. I mean, he did see her before that, like Friday and Saturday. So it was great. He got to see his grandma, but it was just that story to cap it all off on Sunday. It was like, nope, birthday. It's like, no, whatever.
So funny.
so when he came over for our little Super Bowl watch party, he's like, yeah, grandma ditched us today.
Grandma didn't want to hang out.
Grandma didn't want to hang out for Super Bowl. But anywho, I hope you guys enjoyed your Super Bowl. Ours was great. It was pretty cool. I didn't realize Food Line on special occasion days, they kind of like set up the pre-cut Alaskan king crab legs for you. So that was nice. I really wanted crab, and it's just a platter, or it's pretty expensive, but reasonably priced, I guess you could say. Like same thing as if you're going to go,
crab.
And it's Alaskan king crab, which is always more expensive. So that was pretty cool. And then your usual poke, some rainbow drive-in chili, beef stew, all of the good stuff. And now I'm getting hungry. So let's start talking about the game before this show's just getting started. It's a long way till lunchtime. But no, again, just a whooping of the Kansas City Chiefs, 40-22. Yeah, sure, they scored 16 points in the fourth quarter, but at that point, you're just like, well, you're just kind of taking the foot off the gas if you're the Eagles. But you're welcome, everybody. At least now I feel vindicated, because I know a lot of people, especially last week leading up to the Super Bowl, I was just all about Vic Fangio, Chicago Bears, Vic Fangio this, Vic Fangio that. And at least all of you guys who
pretty darn smart.
were not familiar with Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator, because again, he left the Bears to go take the head coaching job in Denver. Didn't work out too well as a head coach, which the irony, when he was the DC, Matt Nagy had been named the head coach over Vic Fangio, and he decided to actually stay as the defensive coordinator until that Denver job was offered to him. But you saw, like, as anyone, he was in Chicago for 4 seasons. Anyone that was a Bears fan or paying attention to the football, it's similar to what we saw with the Eagles. Like, they took a significant jump. Their defense did, from last season to this season when Vic Fangio took over. And same thing when he was in Chicago, that 2018 season, like in his time there, they turned around. They did have Khalil Mack whenever that 2018 season, yes, but they also had Khalil Mack after Vic Fangio left. And then you start to notice the dip, like to Chuck Pagano and so on and so forth. And now the defense is like horrible. And that's why I've been so adamant about the defensive coordinator that Fangio is. And you fast forward to Philadelphia, and I honestly am surprised at the fact that that Spags wasn't able to come up with a better job on the Kansas City defensive side, which is why I kept saying, it's going to be under, because I felt like Philadelphia was going to hold back Kansas City, which they clearly did.
They did.
But I thought, and my friend Mike said this last week. He was like, they're probably going to try to stop the run, which they did. Saquon Barkley held to just 57 yards, way under the total. So that was definitely a prop bet that a lot of people cashed in on if they hit the under. I think the total was like 111 and a half. So way under. His long for rushing was just 10 yards, which is crazy. And then it was all about...
Who wanted that guy to be MVP again? No, kidding.
It was all about stopping, after that it was stopping the pass, right? Making Jalen Hurts throw. And you know what? A.J. Brown, kind of a good receiver. Devonta Smith,
guy can play.
Kind of a good receiver, like Heisman Trophy winner, and coming over to there.
First Alabama player to score a touchdown in a Super Bowl, fun fact. Devonta Smith.
And with a pass from a former Alabama quarterback. Hey.
So many Alabama fans were like, Jalen Hurts scored literally earlier in the game, and he scored 2 years ago, buddy. And everybody's just like, yeah, he's a Sooner. Which is such a weird thing to say, because I don't know how I feel about that, and that starts a transfer portal conversation I don't want to get into. But I thought that was a cool little thing, because we talk about how great the Alabama program was for so long, and Devonta Smith, your first Crimson Tide player to ever score a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
I guess so, because you have Derrick Henry that hasn't been in the Super Bowl yet.
Didn't get there. Julio Jones, it was such an interesting little thing where I was like, really?
Yeah, it seems so weird, because there's so many players that
everywhere
go into the league,
whether it's
from
a
Alabama.
running back and wide receivers just in general.
Yeah.
But then as I thought about it more, I'm like, I guess more when I get excited about Alabama guys, if it's not a wide receiver, it's probably because they're on the defensive side of the ball, or they're playing on the offensive line, neither of which are conducive to scoring touchdowns.
Still, I mean, you get like the rookie out of Iowa, the corner that was made fun of for a long time. Cooper DeJean celebrated his birthday with Saquon Barkley. So yes, during the draft, there was like a whole thing, like what is a white corner gonna do? All of this stuff. Like
we rejoiced yesterday. My people rejoiced.
You're like, that's what they do.
You just created another decade of white corners, folks.
No, but it's crazy, right? Cooper DeJean.
Oh my God, it was awesome moment.
Pick six earlier in the game, right? I mean, Patrick Mahomes was just so flustered. And like I mentioned, it wasn't a surprise to me with what the Eagles defense was able to do to Kansas City. I was just surprised at Kansas City not being able to do more to stop the pass with Jalen Hurts and his receivers. And then obviously having that pick six too didn't help as well. So that was kind of like the shock to me. That's why at first I thought it would go under, because I thought both sides would have good defensive planning and scheming. And Chiefs head coach Andy Reid also talked about how, you know what, the first person he shouted out was Fangio. He was like, Fangio came with a good game plan. They executed better than we did. And that's what it was. And like I said, like you were kind of saying earlier, like, yes, thank you. Thank you, Philadelphia and Vic, for making this girl look a lot smarter than she probably is about football, because I was just talking about it like, hey, I know my Bears defense here, and that's what was going. Well, I would equate it to this, right? Like, yeah, they changed around, like just like the Eagles, the Bears changed around their defense like significantly under Vic Fangio, but sometimes it's like, even if you don't even like go and look at the stats, like when you just watch these games all the time, you notice there's a difference. And I would compare it to, which we'll talk about later, but just wanted to do this brief comparison. Just like how we always talk about Aaron Hunkin-Clater, right? Doesn't exactly have the crazy stats that jump off the paper at the end of the game. But when he's in, there is just something different when you're just watching it with your eyeballs. There's something different about the team and when they play. And that's the same thing about Vic Fangio and the defense when he's the coordinator. You're like, there is just something different about these defenses. Obviously, the stats and the wins, defense wins championships, come their way. But it is, I'm like, thank you, Mr. Fangio, for making this girl look good and not just like ramming it down everyone's throat about like the defense, Eagles defense, Vic Fangio. And you saw it come through fruition. I mean, it even honestly did surprise me that the Chiefs couldn't score anything, not even a field goal in the first half. That was probably, I was expecting the defense to be good, but not that good.
Yeah, it was an incredibly impressive performance by Philadelphia from top to bottom. And it's funny because I think, and I have to go back and listen to see if I ended up remaining on it, but there was one point at which I said, if Philly's going to win this game, it feels like they need to win in a blowout. But then I'm pretty sure after that I said, but it just doesn't feel like this game is heading for a blowout in any way. I wish my stupid self would have just shut up after the first part, because, I mean, I was right in that sense, and a lot of people were right because I was not the lone person saying that, but, the Eagles went for the kill shot early, right? They really, really started well. They score first, they score second, then they score third, and then obviously we can go on further from there. But when you're able to get the first three scores of the game and really shut down a Chiefs offense that not like other years has been able to do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, but shut it down in a way where it never felt comfortable. Like from the start of the game, it never seemed that Patrick Mahomes was comfortable. It didn't seem that Travis Kelce was able to get into his rhythm. The wide receivers, I mean, Mahomes had been sacked and thrown as many interceptions at halftime as he had completions. Like it was an unbelievable day where Mahomes' worst game of his career might have been in the Super Bowl. And the Eagles defense deserves all the credit in the world, where the pass rush being able to get home over and over and over again created a choice for Kansas City where, all right, now that you're down so much, now that you're back, it's 2nd and 16 or 3rd and 14 and these things like that, you're a one-dimensional team. And KC began to become one-dimensional as the game went on, so much so that they just abandoned the run pretty much completely late. And It's why you see them get absolutely smacked down in this one without some late points, some garbage time points, a Hail Mary of Hail Marys and whatnot. I mean, this is similar to that Broncos-Seahawks game from yesteryear of just a total smackdown. So this one, an impressive performance from the Eagles. It goes to what a lot of people were saying leading up to this game and what a lot of people have said this season. The overall roster that the Eagles have assembled this year is the best in the NFL. That shined through yesterday in every single way.
Yeah, and like you said, like that defensive pressure, 6 sacks on Patrick Mahomes, in addition to him throwing 2 interceptions and just 3 touchdowns for the day. Again, pretty much just in the garbage time was majority of their points. Like, that's the stat line you don't see. Travis Kelce only being targeted 6 times at 4 receptions for 39 yards. Xavier Worthy was the leading receiver for Kansas City with 150 yards on 8 receptions. And then, on the flip side, with Philadelphia not being able to get their running game going as they would like to, with usually Saquon Barkley obviously not having a massive game, but a massive piece to the addition of the Eagles as a whole. So, I mean, we saw him have those big games where they really did need him to get going. But fortunately for them, I mean, Jalen Hurts, and that's why Jalen was the MVP, is because he was able to connect with his receivers and ultimately, just put the smackdown on Kansas City. Shout out to Zorned. It was a very entertaining Instagram story. I was like, I love to see it, Zor. Like, he was so happy. Honestly, very tame compared to how I would be if the Bears somehow make it and win this.
Never win the Super Bowl. If you thought Philly burned it down a few years ago, I can't express to you what it would be like for a Jets Super Bowl.
Me neither.
For the Jets to make the playoffs, even, I might get that reaction out of me.
To win one playoff game, right? You'll be obnoxious. Yeah, if the Bears, because the Bears have not won a Super Bowl in my lifetime. The last time they won was right before I was born and put on this earth. So I've seen them in the Super Bowl, which is cool. So I guess that's something that, Paul hasn't had to experience yet, and seen them in the playoffs kind of recently. But winning is like the next level stuff, kind of like when I think about the Orlando Magic, right? That they were somewhat in the NBA Finals recently, and then they had to go against, Kobe Bryant. That guy's pretty good, and the Lakers in the finals. So it's like, all right, we're there, but no winning. So it's a little different.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know what that feels like, but actually I watched the Yankees lose the World Series literally this past year. So I do know what it feels like to watch my favorite team make it to the World Series and lose. So,
but the Yankees, I feel like, are different because they're not like the struggle bus of.
Yes, they are, which is why I didn't immediately bring it up where I was like, right, it's like not the same, but I did, because I almost was like, oh, I've never experienced that. My teams all just suck. They're not good enough to make it to the championship game ever. But that's a lie. One of my teams was.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the other fun stuff that happened in the Super Bowl, some of the commercials, some of the fun tweets that I saw that I'll share with you. And just there was good vibes. I mean, New Orleans, you could feel like almost it like bleeding out of the TV broadcast. It kind of had that vibe, even though the game was a blowout. I don't know. I felt like the game was still pretty fun. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic?
That sucks.
Here's why on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Aloha and good morning, Honolulu, from the Salem Media.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht recapping the Super Bowl. We'll get into some University of Hawaii sports a little later in this hour and hour number 2, but I just want to keep our Super Bowl fun rolling. Let's start with the pregame. Like some of the things as I was kind of doing some house cleaning and then watching some of the lead up. I mean, they had like that interesting like Jimmy Johnson AI tribute. I don't know if you saw that. Like I know a lot of Cowboys fans were kind of, but then a lot of Cowboys fans were also like, why are you playing this when it's like an Eagles Super Bowl? And then it was just a whole thing. It was interesting. And like the AI technology these days, obviously you have some of the waterworks flowing when they had the Randy Moss little like official welcome back after his battle with cancer. We talk about New Orleans and how the vibe like spilled out into, at least it felt like in my living room, where you had like Tom Brady throwing a pass to Gronk like across the like from one balcony to another, also threw a football to like one of the trombone players that were on like an opposite balcony. So it was like a really good vibe and it was a lot of fun things that were going on. Obviously there's like, that's just New Orleans. Some of the funny I got to ask you about this, Paul, because you're someone who watches a lot of football and watches a lot of football on different networks. I saw this really funny tweet that was after giving Tom Brady $375 million for only Fox only had $25 left to spend on a scorebug design, because that was something that stood out a lot when the game just started. I'm like, what is up with that scorebug? And for the beginning of the game, for a pretty substantial period of time, I'm like, where's the down and distance? Where's the down and distance? And it's just like, oh, there it is. But it was just kind of interesting where that's why I don't know if any of you guys noticed. And again, you guys can text us in or comment on the live chat where it's like that was something that was interesting. Like they chose the Super Bowl to just kind of revamp and then I thought, like I said, the tweet was funny because of Tom Brady's like massive analysis contract on it being they'd only had, because it did look like that. Like it was simple, which I'm someone who like does graphics and I do like clean graphics, but it was almost like too simple. And again, the down and distance missing for more than like 5 seconds it just freaks me out, because when you watch football you always want to know where the ball is, and I'm like, what is going on with this? This is like annoying me so much. And I don't know. I don't know if you felt the same way. I know, like I said, it made its rounds on social media, but you're someone that watches a lot of football too. So what are your thoughts on the very clean / plain score bug that Fox wanted to just introduce on the biggest game in the sport in the world?
I'm somebody who watches a lot of football, yes. I'm also somebody who goes to school or went to school with a lot of people who like nerd out over this type of stuff, who like that's their line of work type of thing. They went to school to do stuff like that. As soon as it displayed on the screen, my phone blew up. And it's so funny because all of the comments were very similar to what I was saying, because we're all nerds and we're all the same as you, where we're talking about it. And it's like, I'll be honest, my immediate thought was, wow, I hate this. I think it was terrible. It was minimalistic. It was too minimalistic for me. I am not a fan of that type of way that we're going in design. It feels like we've lost all type of personality, touch, whatever, blah, 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 blah. That was my immediate issue with it. It did grow on me as the game went on. It's similar in a vacuum-ish to like, think about 90s basketball, right? Where they didn't always have the score bug on the screen, where they'd pop it up at times, or I guess that was more 80s basketball. But even so, you know, it's a little bit more of a flash to the past there. I didn't love the fact that you had it's transparent in the middle there, where you can kind of see feet in the middle of it. I didn't love that portion of it. I prefer it to be more connected all the way through. Like you mentioned, the down and distance, the fact that it wouldn't pop up until about 16 seconds on the play clock, that drove me nuts every single time. That's something I want to know right away as a fan. So I didn't love that portion of it. What others? I didn't love the font. I just thought it was an ugly font. It was really, really big and like clunky. Nonetheless, like I mentioned, it grew on me as the game went on. I think part of it is it goes to what I've said 107 times on this show. It feels like I am somebody who hates change just in general. It's not somebody I don't want to see it, especially if it's something that I think is working, is good, whatever. I think scorebug changes are stupid a lot of times. I think networks do it to try and get conversations started, which great. And I think they overdo it and then they realize that they have to kind of readjust it. I think it's totally fine to try it on the Super Bowl because it gives you the widespread audience and whatnot. And I think that won't be the exact scorebug we see next year, but I think we will see something that is similar, that has been tweaked after seeing the reaction from the public, from fans, from consumers, and going on from there. All my fans, I have no fans. All of my friends.
Sorry, that just made me think of, who was it?
Tupu, right?
Was it Tupu? No, it was one of the players too that was like, I'd like to thank all my
true.
fans.
Or my sponsors too.
Yeah.
I would always like to thank our sponsors.
Sorry, we both. Luckily, we were both thinking of the same thing. It was a high school football player, and one of the post games was like, "I'd like to thank all my fans," which was awesome.
Yeah,
by the way, I thought,
thank your fans.
It's an answer that we never get, so it was kind of funny. But anyways, that made me think of it. I want to thank all my fans.
All my friends thought similar things where. They're smarter than I am, so they have a little bit more critiques of specific stuff, and there's background stuff with television that people don't think they realize, but then they realize once it's gone and whatnot. But it was, all in all, it was a fun graphic to make people talk about.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're talking about it right now. But there's still a lot more to talk about when it comes to the Super Bowl. We are going to pause it for just a second, though, because we want to insert our University of Hawaii sports conversations after a lot of games over the weekend. So we're going to take a break. We'll keep the good vibes rolling and actually talk some University of Hawaii women's basketball, because that was the win that we celebrated. And it got a little worrisome in the beginning, but nonetheless, Rainbow Wahine ended up coming back, and it ended up being the Mia Uhila game, and she was her on Saturday night. So we'll be right back to talk some Rainbow Wahine basketball as they continue their win streak at 11 now. So here we go for the Rainbow Wahine. If you guys want to get in on the conversation again, you can text us at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888-5481. Or go on in there to the live chat. Shout out and hello to Caesar, who always, as he does on cue, will message in the live chat right from the get-go. So we always appreciate everyone who tunes in every Monday on our YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani on this post Super Bowl Monday, and it's a brand new day, and it is officially a brand new season in the NFL.
Yeah.
So all you other teams, watch out for the Jets and the Bears, baby. Like, there you go. I know. Like, you enjoyed your time. Yeah. But it's a new season now, as it's gonna feel like that, right? It's always like that in the NFL, where it's just it's a 24/7, 365 type of sport, and it's just a matter of time before we start ramping it up. Obviously, UH football is going on with Spring Bowl as well, that we will continue to bring you coverage of. But we will get back to some Super Bowl conversations. There's still a lot to discuss, like everything, like from what was about to be the first touchdown score to someone like thought they won a lot of money to not winning a lot of money. Other things we haven't even talked about, the commercials yet. But again, we'll get into that a little bit more maybe to close out this hour and also in the second hour. And feel free to text us at 808-888-KGU1. 808-888-5481, or get in on the live chat if you feel so inclined. But I want to talk some University of Hawaii women's basketball now, as the ladies had a huge weekend. It got very, very worrisome as they hosted UC Santa Barbara, but were able to continue their winning streak. Now they are at 11, although Coach Beeman said she doesn't pay attention to that stuff, as she shouldn't. But it's the Mia Uhila game, putting up 23 points. If you guys didn't see it, though, the Rainbow Wahine trailed by 19 points after the first quarter, 11 at the half. It was a start to, we were kind of used to them. And, like, that's a lot of teams. Like, some teams just don't come out. They just come out flat. But that deficit was one that we were like, whoa, what is going on here? But I know in our group text, I was like, you know what? But I believe in the women. Like, if there's a team I believe in to come back, it would be this women's team. If this were on the other side of the men's team, not so much. But
yeah, we'll talk about that later.
The women's team, I'm like, you know what? They're gonna come back. But anyways, before we get into more of the recap of the game, want to let you guys hear from what Coach Beeman and a couple of the players had to say. So you hear Coach Beeman, a little bit of Mia Uhila and Kelsie Imai following Saturday's comeback win.
Just a gritty effort again. To give up that many points in the first quarter and be down 11 at halftime, there was no panic. You just needed to clean some things up. Needed to pick up our tempo, and the only way you can pick up tempo is if you get stops, and that happened in the third quarter. We found a different way to win a ball game tonight. Last 7 or 8 games, it's been our bigs, and the last couple of games, our guards have really gotten downhill and gotten to the rim. Teams either have to play our bigs or they have to stop our guards. They have to make a decision. I thought Mia has been phenomenal this homestand. Absolutely phenomenal. Kelsie, tie, close second, whatever you want to call it, but 3 turnovers in 50 minutes of basketball is impressive. So they're just finding a way to get things done. But there was no panic with this team. We just knew we needed to come out and show people who we are again, and we did.
Kelsie, you've been a part of this team for a while, or this program for a while. You guys don't go down by that many very much. What was the conversation like at the end of the first quarter as you guys understood there was a ton of game left and tried to refocus? What was the conversation like?
Conversation was pretty normal. We just knew we had some lapses, but other than that, we tried to keep it positive because we knew that there was so much time left. And once we're confident in ourselves and have fun, I think we're pretty unstoppable.
Coach, could you talk a little more about Mia? She led you guys in points, rebounds, assists. The second half, especially down the stretch, felt like her hands got even more active than usual, forcing a couple of steals. Just her overall performance, especially in that second half, and what kind of spark that gave you.
She's really good in transition. She's really good in defense, and I think our system is not easy, and Mia every game is getting more and more comfortable with the system, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And if she's not thinking about what she has to do defensively, then her offense comes much easier. And sometimes I can look at her and she's like, I made a mistake on defense, and it kind of takes that step away from her offense. Today she just played. Really proud of her and what she did this week. It's just beautiful to see.
You guys really locked in defensively. Again, I know we're a broken record when we ask about it. they started out 10 of 17 from the field. They made 10 shots the rest of the game. Can you talk about a little bit what changed defensively for you guys, for the players?
For me, I knew where I was messing up, and I wasn't jumping to players' right hands, and I wasn't going over screens. And once I locked into that, I just knew that there was no way I was going to let her even try to get another shot up. That's what was hurting us. So why would I let it happen again?
Yeah, you scored a career high 23 points, I think 19 in that second half. I think early on you came down, hit a 3, and then I think there was a 1-on-2 you took. I think your teammates were calling for the ball, but you kind of took it yourself and they were just smiling. When did you know that you were going to kind of take over that game?
Honestly, I just thought I let the game come to me and, try to put my teammates in the best position I can. But I was just having fun. Yeah.
Coach, could you talk a little bit about the game plan against Marin there? She started out 2 of 3 from the field in that first quarter, 5 points. She ends the night missing her final 7 shots, has 9 points overall in the game. Can you kind of talk about the game plan going in against her?
She's a great player. She shoots the ball incredibly well from all 3 levels, and she draws fouls at a very, very high rate. And part of our game plan was we have to defend without fouling. I think these guys said it that in the first quarter we were a little bit late on our shades. We were a little bit late on just how we were closing out. So we were late. When you're late on a kid like that, it puts her in a position to draw fouls or go by you. And so it game plan that these guys could have told you what it was. No our shades, no our closeouts. Team defense is what's going to continue to have us win ball games. We have to be there for one another, and I think that really showed up, particularly in the third and fourth quarter. Coach Flo was amazing on the sideline. I don't know if we've had that many defensive conversations in huddles as we did tonight, and he just kept drilling it in. It was really great to see the reaction from the girls and how they locked in. And like these guys said, when they're having fun, we play well. The challenge is going to be if we have a game that's hard and Mia doesn't have her 23-point game or Kelsie does have more turnovers, can we stay in that moment of deep breath, make the adjustment, keep going, and not give him that shoulda, coulda, woulda, which a lot of teams do. And I don't feel like it's going to happen with these guys because I think they have their eye on the prize.
Coach, talk about players having fun. How fun was it for you watching them in that second half on the glass? Then obviously first half, you lose the battle by 1. Second half, you win it by 8, and especially that third quarter, you dominate on the glass. How fun was that for you?
My job is to help these guys feel really confident and good about themselves. Their job isn't to make me feel good or put me in a position of success, right? It's for us to put them in a position of success. And so when they can look at me after a turnover and I'm like, you're good, it's going to make her continue to play really hard. And if Mia's doing her thing and misses something, it's like, we're good, let's go. It's a game. They're prepared when we walk on the court. It is really fun to sit back and watch a player have a game like Mia did, and watch Kelsie take care of the ball, and watch our bigs do what they do, and kind of see this team continue to grow. I've never been much of a yeller. I would rather just sit back and enjoy knowing that we're prepared, and I have a ton of confidence in what we do on the court. So yeah, it's a lot of fun when you have that kind of comeback, right?
And that was UH women's basketball head coach Laura Beeman, along with Kelsie Imai and Mia Uhila, after their 65-58 win over UC Santa Barbara on Saturday night to extend their win streak to 11. But again, the way that game started, it was kind of daunting, and UCSB just came out ready to go, and Hawaii came out a little bit flat. Again, that first quarter, 26-7, the Rainbow Wahine trailed, and then trailed at the half as well by 11, and then able to turn it around, had a big third quarter, putting up 23 points. And Mia, it's basically perfect. Like, she was perfect in that second half, which is crazy work, to do. And that's this was the Mia Uhila game. I know you don't want to get ahead of yourself, because usually you kind of coin a game as someone's game more so if they end up winning, right? So you're like, this is going to be the Mia game if they win. And it was kind of coming down the stretch, but Hawaii even defensively able to do their thing. Held Alyssa Marin, as you heard that Coach Beeman got asked about that, held her to 9 points. Skylar Burke led the Gauchos in scoring with 20, but it's just, and you could tell the fun. And I love how what Coach Beeman was saying in that, that's exactly what we saw watching that game, where it's they didn't really overly panic, right? And then you had Meilani McBee hit a couple of huge threes, and then Mia Uhila hits a 3. And they're all just cheering on each other and they're having so much fun where it's just about settling down, do what they can do, get stops and then score, stop and score, stop and score. So that's kind of like what Coach Beeman was talking about, where she says she doesn't pay attention to exactly the win streaks or anything. It just becomes about the next opponent and the next opponent. And I just love how the Rainbow Wahine, not only did they get this win, they're still sitting on top alone at the Big West Conference, but they also did officially clinch a spot into the Big West Conference tournament. So that's another thing. I texted the group chat right away. I was like, all right, guys, we're at least cheering for one team in the postseason tournament when we go to Vegas. So for sure, the Rainbow Wahine will be playing in Las Vegas. They're the first team to clinch a spot. Again, still a long way to go to see if they can finish the regular season on top, but at the very least, for those who may have been planning to go cheer them on in Las Vegas for the Big West Conference tournament, they are in officially following that win against UC Santa Barbara. But it was just such a fun game, and all the shout out to everyone who was in attendance. It's almost like it was a great game, but again, we're just not surprised, because this is the team that we expect. They're never going to be out of it. They're always going to fight back. And this is when you have someone else that steps up, right? Lily, fortunately, was be able to return to action after being sick on Thursday. But you could tell she was still a little fatigued or whatnot, still able to put up 11 points. But when she's not having the best night, who's going to step up? And when you I loved looking at Kelsie Imai's reaction when Mia got asked a question in that post game, because it's so supportive, right? Kelsie was just so 100% supportive. And this is someone who's new this year, right? She transferred in, not knowing what to expect, and now she's getting used to the sets, used to the system. And you're seeing just Mia come in there and it's just, if this is a Mia that Hawaii is going to continue to have along with the other players, the veteran players, oh my goodness. We were talking about them being unstoppable before, and I'm really? It's nasty work by the Rainbow Wahine in a good way. I mean that in the best way possible and the most compliment. And another compliment, right? I tweeted about it where if you guys had watched the Age of Wilson post game of Kalia Copper, I was like, yeah, that's Mia tonight. That's the exact reaction.
Correct.
If you guys know what I'm talking about, then you know. But I can't
you know, and if you don't, you don't.
It's one of those things. But
hope you figure it out if you don't.
Phenomenal game all around by the Rainbow Wahine.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, the most uncharacteristic first quarter you could have imagined for them, and those happened. This was an important performance for proof of concept, right? Where a few years ago we saw them come back from down 15 in the Big West Championship to win that game. Part of the reason that they were able to do that is because they have proof of concept before. They've seen themselves come back from deficits. They've seen themselves come back from difficult situations, respond to adversity. And a lot of times, that kind of carries over year. But at the same time, you need to prove it again year over year. And you need to have that proof of concept. When I say that, the actual visual representation of the thing that you say that you can do. They came back from a 19-point deficit against a team who is going to compete for the Big West title when we do end up going to Henderson. That is a very high-quality UC Santa Barbara team. Bad teams don't just go up 19 on the Rainbow Wahine.
Exactly.
That's the best way that I can put it. Mia Uhila talked to us in the media for the first time last week, a week ago. I think either today or tomorrow. Yeah. She talked to us 3 times last week.
That's right.
I made the joke before they came in. I assumed that we were going to get an opportunity to chat post game with Mia. And I made the joke, I'm like, she's going to get sick of us, 3 times in 5 days is unbelievable, but it was awesome. She's really coming into her own, and that's going to help Hawaii going down the stretch where you talk about players like a Lili Wahine Kapu, who, important to note, she is now 1 point away from 1,000 in her Hawaii career, her UH career, obviously.
That's cool.
Already a 1,000-point scorer in college, but 999 points since joining the Rainbow Wahine program. If she made her free throw, she'd be at 1,000 at home. But that's fine. We won't, we don't need to pick on her because Coach Beeman told us that the players and the coaches are picking on her enough for us. No, awesome accomplishment, hopefully upcoming for her here in the next outing. But nice to see her back. When you add in the ability of Mia Uhila, the playmaking of Mia Uhila, we saw it in the second half, 19 points after halftime. And I'm a little curious about if she really just started to find that. She talked about she let the game come to her. Mm-hmm. If you remember, she scored 4 of the final points of the first half to close out that first half as Hawaii pulled within 11. It should have been single digits, but they committed a questionable foul right before the end of the half. And I'm really curious if that just kind of started to get the ball rolling and she went from there. Because like we talked about, 15 points in the third quarter alone. She was unstoppable in the second half. And by the way, guys, this is a game they came back down from down 19 in. Jovi Lefotu didn't score a single point. She was 0 of 6 from the floor. She missed all 4 of her 3-point tries. An uncharacteristic night for her. Like you mentioned, Lily still a little out of breath, still kind of getting back from being sick. She plays 19 total minutes, which is, Beeman talked to us a couple games ago just about how it's been not what she's wanted to play, a Lily, play a Melani over Imani over 30 minutes per game. Maybe it's also just kind of good to get a little rest for Lily's legs before you hit this final month plus of this season. So this was an awesome game to watch. It was really exciting. I chatted with a lot of people about this too, by the way. Shout out to you guys who made it out there and were cheering. The numbers always feel smaller, or always are smaller than they feel when you go there, because, man, were you guys loud inside the stand, where the cheers were deafening, the boos were loud at times, and you guys certainly make the atmosphere feel like a playoff game at times, even if it isn't the mighty 8,000 that we got for men's volleyball. I would venture to say that those Rainbow Wahine appreciate that support more than you would ever know.
Yeah, it was just such a fun game, and good on you to shout out the crowd, because it was so fun. Like, I'm like having flashbacks of little parts of the game and just getting so fired up throughout of it, and like seeing Hawaii slowly chip away, as I know one of their resident major women's basketball supporters, Scott, coming in here with our YouTube live chat. Props to Mia, who as a first-year player, it isn't easy learning the defensive system. Exactly, and that's why it's crazy to see now that she seems like she's fitting in there, learning all of the different schemes, because the way that the Rainbow Wahine play, a big reason why they're so good is because their system is complicated, and Coach Beeman has said that before. So Mia coming in there, as Scott said, just learning that defense by Coach Flo, also saying it looks like she is getting it now. Yep. A great crowd too. Important road trip coming up this week.
Scott and I are on the same,
exactly.
same wavelength.
But it was just so fun to watch. Again, really uncharacteristic start for this team, but just the way that they're able to not get worried at all. They're like, you know what? It's better to go down that much in the first quarter, because as you can see, you have the entire rest of the game, and that was only a portion of the post game that we played for you. Coming up around 10 o'clock, we have the scheduled of the full video version of the post game on our YouTube channel, so you guys can, all of our Rainbow Wahine basketball fans listening, you can watch the full post game from Saturday night after that game. Again, Hawaii beating UC Santa Barbara 65-58 after coming back from being down 26-7 at the end of the first quarter, and now they are alone or continue to be alone at the top of the Big West Conference standings, officially punching their ticket into the postseason tournament. Long way to go to finish the regular season champs, but still, what a great win. 11-game win streak so far, the longest win streak in, what is it, like almost 10 years? I think it was like the 2015 season.
It's been about a decade, and they're keeping on rolling. You mentioned they don't look forward to like any one game more than the other. Something does tell me they are chomping at the bit, by the way, though, for this shot at Long Beach State.
Yeah, they got it.
Just something tells me. I don't know.
Just like with the UC Santa Barbara, there's just something different when you lose to a team in the beginning of the season and able to come back. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back to close out hour number 1 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht. Want to make sure we mention our friend Scott another time. Speaking of Rainbow Wahine basketball and just putting the call out, putting the bat signal out to more and more fans that the team really needs the fans to come out. Only 3 more home games left. As we mentioned, now they go on for a big road trip to play at Long Beach State, hoping to redeem that loss and also play always a tough opponent at UC Irvine before flipping around to play UC San Diego. And the big one, you guys, this is the one, if you are only able to come to one game, make sure you guys come to senior night against CSUN. That is March 8th. So put it in your calendar, March 8th, Rainbow Wahine basketball, senior night, and the final game of the regular season before we send them off to compete in the Big West Conference Championships. So March 8th, 7 o'clock p.m. at the Simplify Arena at Stan Sheriff Center. Please put that in your calendar. Let's break that record. Like, I know we had Beeman's Bigger Bash, but let's send off these seniors again, like a handful. Like, we have a couple of local girls or a few local girls. And just, we talk about Mia Uhila, someone who came out here to after her undergrad. And it's just, you guys want to come out and support this team. So let's break that record, get 6,200 at least at March 8th, again, Saturday, March 8th. Show them your Aloha senior night against CSUN to send them off to the Big West Conference Championship. So putting out the bat signal now, and we will continue to, so you guys can put that in your calendar. And it's cheap. Kids 18 and under are free. There's always going to be a promotion. The tickets are very affordable. So you guys, no excuses. Come out and support them.
This is the core of the group that has helped deliver multiple Big West championships to Hawaii. You know, you lay it out perfectly where there are so many reasons to go. Also, against CSUN, I believe that means Nana Orji's also going to be back, which, you know, I know she transferred out or whatnot, but she started her career here. That'll be a cool opportunity for her to kind of almost, in a sense, return home for that. There will be plenty of really fun moments throughout the night. And like you mentioned, if there is only once that you can make it there, it's going to be a great time because nobody does senior night like Hawaii does senior night.
Let's go. All right. I got to take a break. Coming up in hour number 2, we will get back to more Super Bowl conversation and get your thoughts on some commercials or whatnot. So you guys can chime in on the live chat or text us at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888-5481. We'll also get into the tough conversation and talking about the losses that the men's teams suffered, and the men's basketball team falling on the road, and then the men's volleyball team. Men's volleyball team, though, not as daunting. At least we'll let you hear from what head coach Charlie Wade had to say following that loss to Stanford, their first loss of this season, as they embark on a road trip and then come back to play the juggernaut that is UC Irvine. So a lot more to get into in hour number 2. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht on this post-Super Bowl Monday. And finally, it's going to be the Bears season that gets started. Let's go.
Debo to the Bears. Come on.
Woo!
Or Cooper Kupp, maybe? Myles Garrett?
We'll see what happens.
The
At least I can
off-season's
have...
here now, so we can at least talk
get
about
excited
it.
again. We'll get right back into some of the fun Super Bowl conversation in just a second. You guys can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. Or we are streaming, as we do every Monday, on our YouTube channel. So be sure you guys like and subscribe, and tune in. And we appreciate you guys as we see some of you watching and also chiming in on the live chat. With Caesar, what I really love about the Eagles making and winning the Super Bowl is that it highlights / brings the running back position back into the mainstream again. My favorite football position. Yes and no, I think, because Saquon Barkley didn't have the main game that a lot of people would have expected him to have. But again, if there's one thing that Spags did as a defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, it was figure out how to stop the run game, because Saquon Barkley was way under the betting total, which was about, I think, 111.5 yards, finished with like 57. So, but Jalen Hurts and co able to find out other ways to score. And it was on the opposite side, and Vic Fangio and the Eagles defense that was kind of the shock, as you heard from our Chaz Ontice talking about Cooper DeJean getting that pick 6. I mean, what an incredible time for him coming out of Iowa after all of the, I wouldn't call it controversy, but just the chuckles and the chatters
Folks,
of, the white corner.
He is a corner. He is not a safety. Respect him on his birthday, and Saquon Barkley's birthday, by the way, which was a funny thing. What a time. But yeah.
I want to pull up this thing real quick, this other funny tweet. We pulled up one earlier, but it's funny because the things I chuckled at and the one I want to share with you guys are stuff that have to deal with Tom Brady. So this is the other one, tweeted out by Nick Foles. It's really cool that Tom Brady got to be there for the Eagles' 2 Super Bowl wins. He might be a good luck charm. Have a great night.
Something like that. Yeah.
I was like that. All right, Nick Foles. All right. As you guys aren't aware, Tom Brady was the quarterback of the team when the Eagles won the last time. And then last night, obviously, he was out and part of the broadcast. So maybe Tom Brady is a good luck charm for the Eagles. And that's kind of funny. I was like, and Nick Foles off the top rope, like just chiming in from nowhere to insert his 2 cents. I thought it was one of the many things I was chuckling at on social media. I know it pained a lot of sports bettors out there, especially the casual ones, because Dotson had what looked like the first touchdown of the Super Bowl, but his knee was down right before he cracked the plane of the end zone, and 80-1 first touchdown scorer were the odds. So imagine if you had that ticket, and this would be something you would put like 0.1 units on, right? Like you just do a little Kool-Aid like sprinkle, like why not? Because the odds are so crazy, and crazy things happen in the Super Bowl. But yeah, he had a longer shot than the Eagles and Chiefs defense to score the first touchdown. Like he was way down there. So if you were the few people that might have put it in, and you're like, yeah, and then realized really quick that,
it was going to be taken away.
And then it ended up being Jalen Hurts, which I'm sure a lot of people bet to score the first touchdown of the Super Bowl. I think anytime touchdown by Dotson was like 17-1. So even then were crazy odds too, where you're like, for a second you thought you would cash in on that. But everyone that had Jalen Hurts for the first touchdown score were the ones that cashed in. But that was kind of another thing I chuckled on. All of us that were watching it, or our mini Super Bowl party, were like, wow, what was the odds on the first touchdown score being Dotson? And then like, oh, just kidding.
Never mind.
None of us like thought to have it, but
it's fun to know.
There's degenerates out there, and I know everyone's going to sprinkle. It's the Super Bowl, so you're sprinkling on fun stuff. But the game itself kind of played out where a lot of people didn't expect. I talked about this in the first hour when it was the Eagles defense. It was what I expected with Vic Fangio, but I'm glad that the officiating didn't have anything to do with this. I'm glad we were not, because that's one thing I think we brought up last week, where I hope that we're not talking about the officiating on Monday. There was the controversial call really early on the Eagles, and then there was, on the flip side, there was almost like, I think it was maybe like the next drive that the Eagles had, then they got a call, right? So it almost like canceled each other out in the very beginning of the game. And other than that, I mean, the Eagles took care of business to the point that it didn't even become quite a conversation. And that's something I can appreciate, where there's anything I love about a blowout win is that we're talking about the play and everything that was able to happen in that game, instead of, oh, well, if the ref didn't call this, then the game, it could have been changed dramatically. It's like, they left no question, the Eagles didn't, and that was, I love that, is that it didn't become anything, because it seems like that's been the narrative with the Chiefs, and I get it, like that's what it feels like, and yada, yada, yada. But fortunately, that didn't become a thing with this game. And that's what I, as a football fan, that's what I can appreciate probably like almost kind of the most in this game, that we're not talking about any poor calls that ultimately decided this game.
I'm going to say two things. One, Eagles dominated this one. Two, it shows how ridiculous and stupid the official narrative was.
Yeah.
Because one, if it was this true thing, they had scripted it all, and the Chiefs, don't you think they would have kept it close? Don't you think they would have made it a little bit better? Also, two, I'm going to say this. The Eagles benefited from a lot of no calls. A lot. And nobody has an issue with that. You know why? Because the players should allow, like the plays should dictate what happens in the end. But I also understand that there are some Chiefs fans who probably feel a certain type of way about certain points of the game, where it's like, oh, dang, man. It's like everybody wants to talk about, you get every call, but they never want to give credit, because there are times on the other side as well. It is very funny how the narrative flips when it doesn't fit what people want to say anymore, right? That being said, what a dominant performance just physically by the Eagles. I thought they dominated the trenches defensively. I thought the offensive line did an excellent job giving Jalen Hurts time to do things. When it comes to the tush push, the reason they're able to do that is just because they are straight up stronger in the trenches. The Eagles all around were phenomenal this year. And it makes me mad at myself when I go back and I think about like my preseason predictions or the way that I thought about it, because I had respect and I had reverence for the Eagles, but I think I put too much stock in the fact that they lost Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, two guys who I have a great respect for, both in the locker room and on the field, what they meant to the team. And I don't know if I thought that they would be able to mesh with this amount of talent this quickly. And early on in the year, it felt like that kind of was the case, right? Yeah. Like a month into the season.
Their offensive line, you could tell they were just a little off without having Jason Kelce at that center position. Like it was a noticeable difference in the beginning of the season, 100%.
Yeah, and with that, it's like I, more than anyone else, am mad at me for not realizing or not remembering that as the year goes on, talent typically, cream rises to the top, right? The talent typically goes up there, and most teams have a lot of new players, new faces, need to, mesh in some way, shape, or form. You get retirements all the time, everywhere, and movement and player movement, blah, blah, blah. I think I should have believed more in the overall conglomerate of talent that the Eagles have than I did in like the time that it would take them to mesh together. So that's me admitting that I was wrong. There you go. There's your clip, Mr. Zor or Darnell, whoever might need it. I apologize to you, the Philly fan, for doubting the ability of the Eagles to fly Eagles fly up to another Super Bowl.
I just had no idea until maybe like mid-season that's where Fangio was. I'm going to be honest. And then once I realized that, I was like, oh, kind of like you. I was like, well, I wish I knew that, because then you guys heard me like
talk about
weeks and weeks leading up to this. I'm like,
we talk about how Fangio, like that's circulating, and I know Miami people or Miami fans are trying to do damage control.
I can't believe Miami
how the
must
players,
be losing their mind.
Well, the players basically ran him out of town, and everybody is like, oh, well, he wanted to go closer to home and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, because the Dolphins are incredibly mid. They're incredibly mid, and he had players who wouldn't want to play the type of defense, the style of defense, the personality that he wanted to bring to the field. Yeah, of course he wanted to leave. And the players not wanting to match that style, look where the Dolphins ended up this year. Look where the Eagles ended up this year. And I say that comfortably because I look at the Jets this year, and it's a very similar thing, right? You talk about plenty of things. You can have, all this talent, this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, you have to play a particular brand of football, and that's physical, smash mouth. I'm going to beat you down in the trenches, and that's what the Eagles did, man. That defensive line, I call them the Georgia Eagles because, they have so many Georgia Bulldogs on that line. But it's just incredible the talent that they accumulated on that side. And this, I mentioned this yesterday to a couple of people as well, where this isn't like the end of the Chiefs. I saw too many people celebrating this as if like this is some other franchise, some other quarterback or whatever, because it is very difficult to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has what, 1, 2?
Oh, yeah.
Like
no
appearances
Aaron Rodgers anymore, potentially.
And that's kind of the thing is Rodgers is one of the best of all time, and you sit there and be like, well, if he couldn't get there, Mahomes is a little bit different. By the way, you brought up Brady being there. That's where I want to wrap this all up. You brought up Brady being there, and I saw a funny tweet as well. I didn't send it to you, and now I'm disappointed that I didn't. But it was mentioning how Brady seems to be Mahomes' kryptonite. You know how everybody refers to the Chiefs as like devil magic or whatever, the black magic, black arts, dark arts, whatever. Take your pick. I saw a tweet, they listed out Brady versus Mahomes and whatever, and how Mahomes is like 0-3 or whatever in the most 3 recent ones. It's like, devil magic, fake devil magic looks real until real devil magic pulls up, or something along those lines, where I'm like, man, that's funny because it's talking about, I think it's like the tweet it's referencing is like one about cars or something about like expensive cars. They have lookalikes until real ones pull up. So people are being like, oh, let's call them the Mahomes GOAT talk. So I thought that was a fun little way to close things out because, as I mentioned last week, I think the Chiefs just completed one of the best decades in football history. But the Patriots dynasty was 2 decades. It spanned...
There was a little lull in between there that you're like, all right, they're going to come back.
And even that lull wasn't really like a lull because they were still good, and it was like Brady broke his ankle or whatever.
We know what lulls are like for our
I don't want to hear
teams.
lulls.
Yeah, for the Patriots.
So, I wouldn't be celebrating yet if I was other fans. The Chiefs are going to reload once again.
Patrick Mahomes isn't even 30 yet, and he's still going to be with the Chiefs. He's their guy until he chooses to retire. Andy Reid is back. Travis Kelce, who knows if he's going to be back. But as you saw this year, he already took a significant step back. So it is time for the Chiefs to reload. Now they realize, like, hey, we were able to skate by with not having the best players in the NFL at the last couple of years. And now they play, like we mentioned, the Eagles team that had very, very good players. And I mentioned this last week that the X factor was going to be if the Eagles could stay healthy the entire game. And they did. There was no significant injuries. They stayed healthy, able to shut down the Chiefs. Hey, our friend in Las Vegas chiming in. He said, cash Eagles bank. Woohoo! Shout out to you, my friend. He said, mix NBA and Philly money line and over.
Give me it.
Philly special. Good luck. Yeah, congrats. And shout out to everyone who are in states that can bet and went all in on the Philadelphia Eagles. A huge cash in there, especially if it was money line. It wasn't like crazy odds on the money line. It was like, I think it was like plus 100 or something, as the Eagles were just
money's money, honey.
Yeah, 1.5 point underdog. I think one of the fun things, the Gatorade color was plus 120 for yellow, green, lime. At first when we, like, that's what you're all looking at, right? Like, all right, here's the Gatorade. What color? And it was lemon lime. It was funny though, because I didn't realize that they had the yellow, green, lime. Because at first I'm like, what color is that? Because it's like lemon lime, but then Kevin Burkhardt said green, but it looked yellow, and he said it was green for the Eagles. But when I look back, at least on BetMGM, they have yellow, green, lime as one color. So whoever had that one cashed in on some plus
Congrats
money, honey,
to them.
too. Yeah, plus 120. So just a bunch of fun stuff. When we come back, we will kind of continue our conversation on the Super Bowl and wrap it up a little bit. We haven't talked about this yet. Obviously, the other thing that comes to mind when we talk about the fun stuff that happened in the Super Bowl, it's the commercials. We didn't even touch on that in the first hour. So want to know what your favorite commercials were that you maybe noticed. I honestly maybe watched a quarter of the commercials. I didn't watch too many commercials, but there were some that stood out to me, and just some other fun stuff taken away from that fun Eagles win over the Chiefs 40-22 to wrap up this football season, because next season is Bear season, maybe. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, and streaming live on our YouTube channel like we do every Monday. So thank you guys for tuning in and either listening or watching. And you guys can text us at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888-5481. All right. Full disclosure, I just didn't really watch that much of the commercials because the few guests that we had, like, we're just talking to our guests, right? Like, it's just natural. Like, you just forget about commercials, and we were talking to our guests. Honestly, I just have a few that I jotted down, like, in my notes here, where the ones that stood out to me of the quarter of the commercials that I did watch was like kind of in the very beginning when they had the Jurassic World Rebirth preview, because I'm like a huge Jurassic Park fan. I love Jurassic Park. I love all of the movies. I still love like even the originals I'll watch from time to time. So now that they have another trailer for a new Jurassic Park movie or Jurassic World now, I got pretty excited about that. So that's one that I'm like, oh, Jurassic World, that looks so cool. And then the other one, the Nike with all of the ladies, was pretty badass. Like that was like, this is awesome. I watched it. I watched it again on Twitter. I was like, this is, yeah, like it just pumped me up, obviously, because you had like Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, Aja Wilson, like you had all of these athletes on here. And I thought that one got me fired up. And then the one that I laughed at the most was, and that caught my attention even in mid-conversation that I was having with the people that were over, it stood out so much that I was like, what is on the screen right now? It was Seal, the artist Seal, as an actual seal in the commercial. So I'm like, because it was just, yeah, it like caught your attention. I'm like, wait a minute, is that Seal as a seal? And And everyone just stopped talking, and we're all watching the TV like, what are we watching? And then you have Seal in human form at the end talking about seeing the seal. It was just a whole thing. But
it was
those
an
were
interesting one.
Those were like the few that stood out, honestly, because again, I felt like I missed majority of the commercials. So those are the only few.
Watch a ton of them. I like and people are gonna see me looking at a list over here. I promise I'm not just picking and reading off of these, but I did need a refresher because I felt like a lot of them were not that memorable.
Yeah.
I enjoyed I really like the Instacart or Uber Eats and those type of commercials.
Oh, yeah,
I
the
find
Matthew
those
McConaughey Uber, but
Yeah.
I saw that commercial before the Super Bowl, so
I find those the ones that they do, they're typically like interesting concepts or like they're at least a little bit funny. So I enjoy those. I'm a big fan of like classics. So anytime the Budweiser, you get the Clydesdales in there. I'm also a big horse guy. That's something. Wow, that sounds really weird when you say it out. Anyway, I am a big fan of horses as somebody who grew up tangentially to a farm. So I really enjoy the Clydesdales. I enjoy the Budweiser commercials. I find them to be classics. What else was there? You mentioned the Nike one. That one, I really appreciated that one because it continues the growth of women's sports, of what we're talking about. It continues the attention. It continues the representation. You mentioned the W athletes that were on there. There's also, Sha'Carri Richardson started it out. There were multiple sports represented. Was it Jordan? Whatever. Their gymnast was on there as well. Like a ton.
Oh yeah, Jordan
ton.
Childs was on there.
Yes. It was wonderful. I know my wife loved the Michelob Ultra, the Ultra Hustle with Willem Dafoe.
I missed that one.
That one, she's just a big Dafoe gal, so she enjoyed that one. That was good. Like I mentioned, Budweiser. Yeah, I think there was one other one that. Oh, and of course the Bud Light, the big men on the cul-de-sac with Shane Gillis and Post Malone. Thought that was funny because I think they drop a little something of like TV knowledge that you don't know, which is you can't take a sip of the beer while you are promoting the beer on the screen. You have to wait until the commercial is over.
Yeah.
Thought that was a good creative one. And I apologize because I don't remember who it was, but I know that there was somebody who took out a commercial ad space so that everybody could go to the bathroom. That one was an awesome ad too. Those are my favorites. There you go.
I was like, that was the long list. See, that was the other, that Post Malone one was another one I saw like before Super Bowl Sunday. Like they had it on social media or something, just like the Uber Eats one, which was good with Matthew McConaughey, which I totally forgot about. It was like the food thing, like that the Super Bowl is just an entire conspiracy of food because it's like, the Super Bowl and the Caesar Dome. It's named after a salad and all of that stuff. So that was pretty cool with different cameos. But anyways, we did get a text, but not about the Super Bowl. The other thing we have to probably talk about on this show, we're trying to avoid it. But fine, we got to talk about it. The University of Hawaii men's basketball team falling on the road. We were talking about the women in the first hour with their huge comeback win, but unfortunately the men not able to do the same, losing at UC Santa Barbara 76-72. Someone texted in that Hawaii men's basketball had the ball with 22 seconds left. I knew something bad was going to happen. You and me both. Honestly, we've talked about this, I think, ad nauseum at this point, but we have to because it's so noticeable to everybody else watching, except there is something I guess the coaches know that we don't know or something, because the fact that Aaron Hunkenclater was not in the game for like the last 5 minutes down that stretch, and lo and behold, Hawaii goes on a scoring drought to end the game, right? Like, wow, what a coincidence like that happened without Aaron being in the game. So the fact that Aaron was not in the game down the stretch, you guys have heard us talk about this so many times, that the offense flows different when he is in there. And I know part of the reason why the coaches like Cody, which is like, Cody's a great player, and so is Marcus and everybody else. And you can have Cody and Aaron out at the same time. You just need to have Aaron out there. And it was just so frustrating to watch down the stretch because you will have someone that did have a big game like Tanner Christensen leading the Rainbow Warriors in scoring with 23 points. But there is so much more that this team has, and the game just flows differently. Not only just the offense, but also the mistakes. Like there's a limited amount of mistakes when Aaron is out there. And I know he doesn't jump out to people like Cody. And I feel so bad because I keep picking on Cody when it's like I said, I'm fine with Aaron and Cody being out there in the court at the same time. But it feels like the substitution pattern is that Aaron gets subbed out by Cody Williams and gets subbed out before, we've talked about this too, Paul, before your first media timeout. Like, who does that? Who subs out their starting point guard when he's not making any significant mistakes before the first media timeout? Like, it's just so hard for me to understand. And that's part of the reason why, unfortunately, Cody gets picked on, because he's the one that comes in for Aaron a majority of the time, even though sometimes they play out there together. But Cody is just one of the ones, like, yeah, he scored 10 points in that game, but also had 3 turnovers and committed 3 fouls, where, like, Aaron, I mean, he's playing relatively clean the whole time. Didn't score any points, but he had 4 assists. So that's something we talk about, right, when it comes to point guards, your assist to turnover ratio. Cody Williams, no assists and the 3 turnovers, right? Like, the game is just different when Aaron is out there, and it just does get really frustrating time and time again when, just like our trickster said, I knew something bad was going to happen. And I'm like, the fact that Aaron was not out there down the stretch, I think Hawaii, like they scored maybe after Aaron gets subbed out. I believe Hawaii had only scored 1 field goal down that final stretch. And then Brian Rapp had a couple of free throws. But in terms of field goal only, they had like a 4-minute field goal drought. The last 4 minutes of the game, couldn't put it in, turned it over on inbounding plays. It's like, what are we doing? It was so frustrating to watch, where we make the comparison on the Rainbow Wahine side, and you're like, everything is fine. And sometimes there was that one game that Hawaii did get lucky because the other team did miss some open shots. But for the most part, the substitutions, the end of game management for the Rainbow Wahine, they're going to lose. It's going to be the other team is just out hustling and outplaying them. It's not going to be where you're just yelling at your TV like, why isn't so-and-so in? Like, the substitution patterns make sense. Like, everything that they run for the Rainbow Wahine makes sense. Where the men's team, I just can't quite figure it out down the stretch, right? Like, and the fact that it's amounting to losses is what is getting really, really frustrating, because we can't figure it out. At least people like Paul and I, who watch basketball and love basketball so much, that it just doesn't make any sense to us. And even in conversations that I've had, like some of the reasonings that I was given, I'm like, at first I'm like, all right, that kind of makes sense. But then you see the last couple of games and you're like, wait, this still doesn't make any sense. Like, what is going on? And I think that's the part that has been really, really frustrating for not only fans, obviously. I know you guys have been really, really frustrated, but just people that cover and breathe basketball. And as our Michael Liscarroll likes to tease us, the basketball propaganda that Paul and I just feed down your throat because we love the sport. And when we completely cannot figure it out, it gets very, very frustrating. Like, why Aaron Hunkenclater is not in the freaking game. Like, and you're going on this scoring drought, but when Aaron is in, the offense is flowing.
I am descending into the pits of madness, Koo. I can't, like, I went on a rant and I felt bad last week about it, and I don't really feel bad about it because I just don't get it. I don't get it, right? Okay, let's take a second. You bring up turnover, assist to turnover ratio, right? That's a great thing to look at, especially when it comes to point guards. It's a numerical value that you can kind of draw value from, where what they're doing for you out there, not scoring necessarily, but helping you still score or prevent scores or, whatever. Aaron Hunkenclater has played 22 games this year, okay? He's averaging 14 minutes per contest. That's obviously gone up as of lately, but he leads the team in assists, Koo. He has 44 assists in 22 games, averaging 14 minutes per game. Okay. He has a 2.9 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. Cody has played 24 games. Cody has 42 assists on the season. Just 2 less than Aaron. In 2 more games and, 10 more minutes of work. Okay, I'm getting these stats directly off of the University of Hawaii athletics page. Okay. I played point guard. Okay. I didn't play point guard at the Division I level, but I played point guard for a long, long time, and I played point guard into college. you need to take care of the basketball.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about turnovers since Hilo. That was like the thing we talked about. All right, everybody's slipping, sliding. That sucked, but both teams had to play on it, right? Hawaii turned the ball over damn near 50 times in 2 exhibitions against 2 Division II squads. Okay? That's when we knew we might have a guard problem. And not in a, we don't have talent there, but we don't have the right people running the point. Because I love Cody. I didn't think Cody necessarily played particularly bad in this game.
No.
That's what sucks about pointing out why when Aaron comes out and they go on these droughts or they go in these stretches, that's what sucks about it is it feels like it's this directed attack, but it's really just a stray that Cody catches because you look at it, Aaron makes everybody else better. He makes Harry Ruliadef better. He makes Tanner Christensen better. He makes Akira Jacobs better. He makes Tom Beatty better. He makes Cody Williams better when they play next to each other.
Yeah.
We're putting guys in their wrong spots. Marcus Green is out there to score. And great, he can pass the ball. He can break down a defense. He can get into the paint. He needs to find a rhythm. And if he can't do that, then he's not that valuable out there. Cody Williams, we saw it. He can shoot the ball pretty well, and he's so fast. When he can get downhill, he's a scoring guard. He's not a point guard, guys. He turns the ball over too much. He stares down his passes. He telegraphs it too much. You see defenses jump all over it. Tom Beatty does the same thing, and yet we still continue to put them in point guard positions over and over and over again down the stretch, and then we ask ourselves, damn, why are we turning the ball over so much? Because you put guys who are not in their comfortable spots in spots that they need to make decisions that are going to lead to turnovers. It's what happened at the end of the game. You know who turned the ball over with 26 seconds left? Tom Beatty. It's not that Tom's a bad player. It's not that Tom can't score the basketball. It's not Tom can't play defense. Not that Tom can't do all these things, right? But Tom's not in a spot that is made for him to be successful. At the end of the game, when you need to take care of the ball, when you're down by 2, you have a must-have possession. Know what you should do? Probably have the guy who has the least amount of turnovers and the most amount of minutes out there. The guy who is known to take care of the basketball. I don't give a damn that he's a freshman. Play the kid, okay? He needs to play 25, 30 minutes a night. It's unacceptable at this point. I can't take it anymore. I've literally, like, you guys saw me on social media, and it's a cute little funny hee tweet about the insanity, but how many times are we going to try the same thing over and over again? We start the game out fine, whatever, and then we go into this scoring drought. It's 2, 3, 4 times per game that you see a scoring drought, and I guarantee you, if you look at it each time, 3 out of 4 times, Aaron Hunkenclader's not out there. But when he is out there, scoring happens. I mean, they gave up a 13-0 run after he went out, okay? Then Cody hits a 3, then Aaron comes back in. Know what happened? Hawaii went up!
Shocker!
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
I think that's all.
Like, my eyes, I'm not a huge eye test person, but when the eye test matches the stats, the answer is right there. And it's like they're spitting in the face of the answer for whatever reason. I'm not asking you not to play Cody Williams. I'm not asking you not to play Tom Beatty. I'm asking you to play them with Aaron out there. I'm asking you to play the point guard who takes care of the ball 30 minutes per game. Because guess what? He has more assists in less time than anybody else. And he's shown a propensity to take care of the basketball in bigger roles against better opponents. Just make the simple thing. Sometimes the correct answer really is the simplest one.
But again, it feels like we're taking crazy pills because it seems so simple. Because you're right. That's good at pointing what you said out. Like, when the eye test matches the box score watching, you're kind of like, hey, maybe this is kind of the key to the formula because, yeah, it's like part of basketball. You can just watch it and you can see the flow. And then you look at, obviously, watching the box score because sometimes, especially in basketball, the box score will not match the game. But after a while, they do obviously come together and there's a correlation between both. And when something matches, you're like, why is this not setting up? And again, obviously, Aaron's going to get tired. We're just not going to play the entire game. Like, no way.
Play 40 minutes. I'm not
but
asking him to be Tom Thibodeau's point guard. Don't sub him out before the first media timeout.
Like, what are we doing when he makes no significant mistakes? Like,
people question, all right, defense, right? He's tied for the team lead in steals. And I know, listen, that's such a half-baked take, and there's so much more to defense than that. But you see it out there. Once again, it's eye test next to numbers. Just
You know what's good defense? Not giving the other team the basketball for free. It's kind of contributes
sixes.
to like
how many fast break points, how many points off turnovers do other teams score? If we look at those each game, I would imagine that it plays a very large role. Hawaii's lost 6 of 8. Like, we've lost 6 of 8, right? This is the stretch that started last season. Now it's just kind of in the middle of this one. They still, luckily for them, have time to figure it out. And luckily for them, the bottom of the conference is so bad that they've been able to still hold on to 7th place in the Big West despite losing 6 of their last 8.
I was just going to bring that up to you. You beat me to it where Hawaii's kind of like just in there in terms of qualifying for the Big West Conference tournament. At the top, you have Irvine and UC San Diego. And I think that's why this...
Who's been so good.
I think that's why the Santa Barbara game was frustrating because Hawaii has the talent to match UC Santa Barbara. And we're so close to winning. And I feel like you just make that one change that seems so simple. This could very much been a win instead of a loss, where it's not like you're playing CSUN, who is they're just so much more athletic compared to Hawaii. And then UC Irvine, always going to be solid. UC San Diego, obviously really, really good. So you're not playing, these losses aren't coming to some of these top teams where it's like, it's going to be a struggle for Hawaii just in terms of overall like depth and all that stuff. Santa Barbara was a very winnable game, and that's why it's frustrating that Hawaii was so close and didn't come out with it. When you look at, though, what another significant game that happened when we talk about the top of the Big West standings, I mean, UC San Diego, smacking UC Irvine, 85-67 in Irvine.
I was going to say, that was at Irvine, too.
So, I mean, UC San Diego, now they're the first year eligible for postseason, and they're just going to be one to reckon with. But hopefully Hawaii, and at least, obviously we're not coaches, we don't influence the coaches whatsoever, but it would be nice to maybe see Aaron get in there. So at least it's, I was equating it to like during football season where everyone was like, put in Jaron Kiave, Sangapolutele, or John Kiave, excuse me, like John Kiave, get him in there.
Shoot, I would have taken Jaron.
Put in John Kiave, and then when you finally saw him go in, fans can be like, yeah, okay, Braden's like better. And obviously Micah got redshirted for a reason. Like we can't really talk about like, why didn't we play Micah earlier? It ended up working out. But John Calve going in, when you see him go in, you're like, yeah, okay, well, it makes sense why he doesn't play over Braden. Like I want to see that at least now with Aaron. Right? Put him in there longer than the first media timeout. Put him in there the last 5 minutes of the game to see if he will help guide you to a win, because we haven't seen that so far, and they've amounted in losses. Again, him and Cody Williams are fine out there together. Like, I have nothing against Cody. Like you said, unfortunately, Cody just catches strays because he's the one to sub out Aaron, and that's just the way it is. But when they play out there, they're fine. Like, but you need to get Aaron in there down the stretch, and you need to not sub him out after that first media time. It gets so frustrating. Anyways, we'll talk about a loss that is less frustrating when we come back. The Rainbow Warrior volleyball team falling to Stanford, their first loss of the season. But, Coach Charlie Wade isn't very worried, and we'll let you hear what head coach Charlie Wade had to say following that game. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Check my latitude. Top floor, that's who in the zoo. Strut move like whoop down the avenue. Hey, I just want the finer things. I've been looking my whole life trying to find the things.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back to all of you, the beautiful list of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live every Monday on our YouTube channel. So be sure you guys like and subscribe. And like we said, maybe pick up a few more streams as we go throughout the week, but we'll see. We'll never know what happens. On our YouTube also, you can watch some post-game, either with men's volleyball. We'll have women's basketball after Saturday night's game up for you guys, actually at the conclusion of this show. So if you want to hear, you heard some in the first hour, but you'll hear the full post-game coming up on our YouTube channel. And it also highlights that our Michael Liscaro puts together, Sharks Weekly. We got a bunch of stuff. So we appreciate you guys that tune in and like and subscribe. And that is why you are the beautiful list of all the beautiful people. Before we get into men's volleyball conversation, though, I want to just do a really quick update and shout out for the high school sports. We never touched on it, unfortunately. My Mililani Trojans, sad face, falling to Iolani in the Division I Boys Soccer State Championship. So Iolani rallied for their 11th state soccer championship in boys soccer for Division I, and then in Division II, Kamehameha Schools Hawai'i beat Kapa'a 1-0. And then in girls basketball state championship action, finally, I feel so bad because it's like, I know we probably have Iolani people listening or watching, but nonetheless, I think, what is it, like 5 championships, or it's kind of a lot, like in a row. So Kamehameha Schools Kapalama able to dethrone the Lady Raiders of Iolani 40-34 to claim the Division I state championship in girls basketball. And then Hanalani defeated HBA 62-33 to get their second state crown and take home that Division II title. So a shout out and congratulations to all of the student athletes for just competing in these state tournament games. Coming up this week, we will have OIA boys basketball championship action for you. The Division II championship is set. It will be between Kaiser and IAEA. Kaiser beat Farrington 50-43 in one semifinal, and IAEA beat Castle 63-38 to move on to the championship game this Wednesday. For Division I boys basketball, that will get decided tonight. Kailua versus Moanalua, 5:30 at McKinley, and then Lelehua versus Mililani to follow at McKinley as well. So we'll see who punches their ticket in. Wednesday are the games. Division II begins at 5:30, and then Division I at 7:30 or immediately to follow. And you can hear Paul Brecht and Kyle Galdera with the call for the championship games this Wednesday on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. All right, getting back now to our University of Hawaii sports, as the Rainbow Warrior volleyball team falling to Stanford, suffering their first loss this season. Stanford improving to 4-4 for the season so far. But Hawaii, it seemed like they were just going to almost cruise to a win that night, but because that first set 25-19 for Hawaii, like, all right, this is gonna be a pretty good game for us. I thought we
were on for a sweet night. I'm gonna be honest with you. Oh my gosh!
And then Stanford, they're still a very well coached team, obviously with a lot of great players, and they just did the reverse. And
this is Michael's fault.
We will blame Michael because he's not here to defend himself. So
Correct.
Yes, it is Michael's fault. But Stanford taking the last 3 sets, 26-24, 25-23, and 26-24. So very, very close. Hawaii battling there throughout all the sets, but just unfortunately not enough in the tank to take over the Cardinal. Before you get our thoughts, want to let you hear from what head coach Charlie Wade and also what Louis Sakanoko had to say after the game. And this is mainly for maybe some of our radio-only listeners, because I know we have the full post game up on our YouTube channel, but still don't want to leave our radio listeners out. So here is just a little snippet of that post game following Hawaii's loss to Stanford.
You know, they had one guy that really kind of carried them. The libero played really well. Evan Porter and number 7 really heated up. Like I said, he was under 10% through 2 sets, and then was really good down the stretch, unstoppable, and was kind of doing whatever he wanted. He'd block out, hard cross, off the top. They started setting the pick. They set him more on the from the back row tonight than they did last night, and he played good.
You guys haven't lost yet this year. Staved off a bunch of match points in previous matches, so it's kind of the feeling right now after taking that first loss.
The feeling is hard. We're all probably really sad, mad, and all those type of feeling for sure. But let's try to see the positive, I guess. When all those things will be done, we need to see the positive. We learned a lesson tonight. We lost. Sorry. That's okay. That's life. But no, it's what we're gonna do after when we go on the road. We come back play UCI. How they play, what we lost. So a lot of frustration right now because it's hard to lose. But we're gonna be stronger for sure.
You mentioned the lessons, right, and looking at the positive. Stanford, they were definitely the more desperate team, I think, losing their last 3 matches. Does that kind of bring back the fire for you guys, knowing that you guys got to come back now and hopefully get this win before UCI comes into town?
Of course, yeah. We're not going to lose again. Not on the road for sure right now. We're fired up, and we're going to fight every single game, more than tonight, more than ever. So, yeah, of course.
For either of the players, was it difficult at all to get into a rhythm tonight? It seemed that through the ebbs and flows of the match, maybe there was a miscommunication here or just not able to get into the flow. Was that a feeling that you guys had throughout the night?
Yes and no, because it's always tough to go into a game. Yeah, of course we're tired. We just go to BYU, come back. That was a hard trip. We played 2 days ago, so probably. But that's not how I felt it. We always try to give the maximum we have. Go hard on the flow probably, but we just give everything, I think. So I say that personally. I don't know about the whole team, but we try to put a lot of energy, and all the fan was there to help us too. So that helped for sure. If it was empty, it's harder to play. But everyone was there, and so yeah, I don't really know, but we try our best.
I look at like it was a weird. The game had a different rhythm to it. What they do is really different than what we do.
Yeah.
And they were more comfortable doing what they do, and they were a little better at it tonight. They were winning the close 2 sets, and that running it super fast and jumping with no intent to spike and just pushing. And that's the game has evolved like that. There's several years ago they would have called all of those. But now they don't call any of them because they would have to call all of them. So, it's just kind of how how the game has evolved, and we don't play like that in our gym. So it was an advantage to them. It was totally different for us. And like you said, it always just kind of felt the rhythm. We never really felt that comfortable. There are balls that we'd have unbelievable serve, high ball, and you could just guys just salivating like I'm gonna house this, and they just no approach. It was just like I said, a different rhythm to the whole weekend. I think one of the things that if you ask me what I'm disappointed in is that we didn't win for the crowd. They're such a big part of our success for such a long time that there are a lot of people walking out here probably a lot really disappointed. They came to see us win, and we fought hard, but winning matters. There are not a lot of moral victories in this. At one point, winning is a big part of what we're about, and it's always disappointing we don't, and disappointing that we can't let all those people that came here, kind of bask in a victory, and that they really helped us be a part of. So, like I said, just disappointed we didn't get a win for the fans.
And that was UH men's volleyball head coach Charlie Wade, along with, you heard Louis Sakanoko. You didn't hear Christian Tetrisky. He was part of the post game, obviously, but since we're pressed for time, edited a lot of it out. But you can watch the full press conference up on our YouTube channel following that loss to Stanford. And I do need to shout out Christian, though. He was in a pouty mood, but I think I texted you guys, Paul, was like, I appreciate it. I'm like, that was me. Like when I was a competitive athlete, I was someone that hated to lose more than you like to win. So I got it. Like, I'm like, that happens. It's immediately after the match. Obviously, like, he's a new player too. He's a freshman, right? Like, you kind of, that's how your emotions are after a loss when you're young, where it's like, you can see the maturity, a difference with Louis Sakanoko, where it's like, hey, we're going to look at the positive. Charlie Wade also looked at the positive on what this team can be because of the young talent like Christian Tetrisky, amongst other people. Adrian Rohr, I didn't have it in that audio, but it's in the full post game where he kind of talked about how Coach Charlie kind of sees this from a lot of young players. They kind of have this little fatigue, actually, because they're just coming in to play volleyball. They're playing more volleyball than maybe what they're accustomed to, on top of the additional weight training and stuff that they do, and then on top of balancing school. So he said, kind of in reference to Adrian, where it's like sometimes it's just with the young players, but the fact that you have players like Adrian and Christian, even sometimes when he's having clean games, sometimes when he's a little erratic, but we've seen the talent of this men's volleyball team. So like Charlie mentioned, it's like, hey, he's glass half full guy when it comes to looking at the team and the future of this team. And it's, you suffer that loss, you're going to go on the road where you should win all of your games on the road, and then you come back to host the juggernaut that is UC Irvine. So a lot of optimism. I saw a lot of people commented on our YouTube of that, and like just everyone's positive about this team, and
as they should
you just see the talent, and it just feels, obviously we just always want to win. Everyone's going to want to win, but as long as they figure it out and win when it matters down the stretch, because when you're looking at Irvine coming in, and then even towards the ending of the Big West schedule, you got Long Beach. And then before that, though, you have the Outrigger Invitational, where you have other ranked teams coming in. So this is at least a good test from Stanford. I know Michael Escaro was really adamant about seeing the Hawaii potentially suffering a loss so that they could maybe learn. I know Paul and I were on the other side of that. I was like, no, I don't want to lose to Stanford. If we're going to lose, it's going to be to Irvine, who has like the best player in the country. But hearing Charlie them like be a little more positive. Again, I'm a sore loser especially when I feel like it's a game that you should win. I'm like, our team needs to win, darn it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to look forward to with this team.
100%. I think Charlie put it in perspective, right? Where it's not like he was jumping up and down. Oh, yay, we lost. But he also, wasn't, oh my God, the season's over. We've lost a game. Because to
a team ranked behind us.
Right. He talked about it, right? The future of this group is so exciting, not just for the months ahead, but the years ahead. And these type of games, these type of performances, they come, right? It just happens. Everybody has an off night. Everybody has a time where it just doesn't quite go through for you. And we've talked about this, and we talked about it a little bit off air, where it wasn't necessarily that Hawaii was totally outplayed by Stanford. No. Oh my God, they were killing them. But some of the errors that Hawaii made were very untimely, right? And it's those moments where you're like, you fall in each of the sets. Two of the sets, you fall in extra points, and each of them you take it pretty much the distance of what you can without needing extra points. So a tough back and forth night, a good learning experience. One that you'd like back in a lot of ways. And I'll say this, I appreciate Christian Tetrisky's demeanor after that game. And you might hear that and like be like, or whatever. I would prefer somebody who is so against losing. I mean, this is a personal anecdote again. You guys could ask my wife. Ask her how I am when my team loses, how I am for the rest of the day, whether that be the Jets, the Yankees, the Knicks, even the Hawaii teams. It's like when a loss happens, my mood significantly changes. It's not great. It's not a great practice, but it's the truth.
Losing. Yeah.
So, and it's simply because I hate to lose, and I appreciate that from Tetrisky because it wasn't in a way, and obviously I'm not in the locker room, I'm not there with them. It didn't seem in a demonstrative way. It wasn't like he went into the locker room throwing chairs and stuff like that, throwing a temper tantrum. He's pissed off.
Yeah.
He deserved to be pissed off. It sucks to lose, and it sucks to lose at home.
Especially when those sets that you lost were like so close, right? So that's obviously going to get frustrating. By the way, quick update for you guys as we're wrapping up the show when taking a look at the other games that happened, because I think this is a significant one to mention to everybody, or a couple of games over the weekend. On Friday and Saturday, BYU number 6 swept UC Santa Barbara on both nights. Another significant game that happened last week Friday, Long Beach State beat UCLA 3-1, and they also play again on Wednesday. So that was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, Long Beach State, okay, beating number 3 UCLA. So I wanted to make sure to mention that for other men's volleyball fans as another. This is fun. We're walking and rolling. All right. But we do have to go. So we'll get into more, obviously, UH sports as we go throughout the week and look forward to this upcoming football season. That is Bears time, baby. For Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Mahalo for listening and watching. It's been Wake Up in the Den. Bye.
Your home for you.